Welcome to the educational research section of www.happynumbers.org. Today's video is on accuracy and consistency of measurements, or validity, which means accuracy, and consistency or reliability, which means consistency. And whenever research or even educational practices uses instruments. Research may use survey instruments, direct observation as a way of collecting data, interviews. Are these instruments accurate and are they consistent? Are they valid and reliable? And we're going to take a look specifically today at 4 types of validity that we will be looking at when we look at research that is using some types of instruments, or even it may be reading programs. A company may put a publisher may put out a reading program, and they'll have a manual, and in that manual they should address how they developed the validity of that instrument or that reading program or mathematics program or whatever, and how they address the reliability of it. So we're going to take a look at validity today, 4 types. Now, validity means, does an instrument, or in case if it's a reading program or some kind of intervention, measure what it is intended to measure at the time it is being used? And the other thing to consider are the obtained results generalizable to the intended target population. And we're going to look at 4 very standard types of validity, and you should be aware of them. And in evaluating programs or in evaluating research that is using instruments like intelligence tests or things like that, you should be aware of how the instruments or the programs address these 4 types of validity. The first is called construct validity. Construct validity. Construct validity is as a procedure, it establishes that the instrument or the program or whatever has been developed according to a supportable educational, sociological, psychological theory, and is measuring the constructs supported by that theory. So what is the theoretical underpinning of the instrument, pardon me, or the particular program, and what are the constructs that are supported by that theory? An example, intelligence is a construct. It's a theoretical construct. It's not something that really necessarily exists. It's just a construct, a man-made construct. Self-esteem is a construct. So if we're using an intelligence test, is the test measuring what constitutes the construct of intelligence? And the degree to which the instrument is measuring the constructs of the theory, that is referred to as construct validity. And as research consumers, we should expect that every instrument or every program, reading program, math program that publishes has construct validity. Extremely important. Second type of validity is content validity. Content validity. Content validity establishes that the instrument is measuring a specific body of information. When an instrument's developer demonstrates that the specific variables, items, or questions represent an accurate sampling of specific bodies of knowledge, it is said to have content validity. If we had a test, let's say we developed a test to examine the mathematics ability of our students. Well, if we just had single-digit multiplication on the test, if that's the only thing we had on the test, well then that is not an accurate sampling of the specific body of knowledge of mathematics. We would have to have many, many different types of questions. Multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, yada, 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 to represent. So we need to be aware that the instrument's developer has demonstrated that the specific variables or items or questions represent an accurate sampling of the total body of knowledge, and if it does, then it has content validity. And instrument developers usually submit the instrument's items to a group of experts for validation. So I recall I was doing my doctoral work at the University of Kentucky. ETS, Educational Testing Services, had contacted the department, and my area was students with behavior disorder, and they were putting together a test to, and they paid $100 a question. They would pay $100 a question. So they were going around contacting people who they thought might have more expertise in the field and asking them to write questions. For surveys, would have to include an accurate sampling of what it's trying to measure, and they'd probably have to be operationalized. So that's content validity. A third type of validity is concurrent validity or criterion-related validity. Concurrent validity, a third, is a procedure establishes the extent to which an instrument measures something to the same degree as does another known to be valid instrument. What that means is, suppose I develop an IQ test. Well, and I've taken care of the construct validity and the content validity. Now, there are IQ tests that already exist that have known validity. So, if we give a group of people my IQ test, and we give the same group of people an IQ test that we know to be valid, and the group of people's scores are similar on both tests, then we can say that my IQ test has concurrent validity because it's in agreement with an already existing instrument that we know is valid. And the instrument developer administers both instruments to the same group of individuals. The extent to which the results correlate or are scored similarly is an indication of the instrument's concurrent validity. And our last type of validity is predictive validity. And it refers to the extent to which an instrument can predict a target population's performance or reaction after some future situation. The SATs are a good example of an instrument used for predictive validity. The SATs were developed to give colleges, so colleges could make a relatively good guess about who would make it through the first year. And the relationship between SAT's test scores and performance of college freshmen in their first year is very highly correlated. So the SAT has good predictive validity. Well, let's review. We looked at 4 types of validity. First one, construct. Is it demonstrated that the development of the instrument comes from a supportable theory, and it represents the constructs of that theory? So that's the construct validity. Content validity. How well does the content of the instrument being used represent a valid sampling of the total content being measured? So if we're measuring all of mathematics, then the test has to be an accurate sampling of all of mathematics. Concurrent validity, how well does our instrument measure compared to a known instrument which purports to measure the same phenomena? And predictive validity, how well can an instrument predict the population performance? Okay, well that's validity. That's validity, and those are the 4 major types of validity, and you should be aware of these when reading research that is using instruments, or when looking at reading programs or mathematics programs or social studies programs that publishers put out. And in their manual, they should report on how they address the area of validity. And you should be able to critique that. Well, thank you very much. We'll see you next time.